Welcome to Android Weekly on Butterscotch.com, the show that navigates the ocean of Android to land on all the news that matters to you, or at least to me. I'm Andrew Moore-Crispin. In this week's episode, Microsoft wants more money, go figure. The Nexus Prime is primed, and Google's billion-dollar pie. Kate Abraham also brings us her review of the Alchemy game for Android. But first, we welcome Hover.com back as the lead sponsor for Android Weekly. Hover is the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Our friends in the Hover customer support section recently live demoed the latest and greatest developments. My favorite, it's now easy to renew multiple domains, get email, manage locking and privacy thanks to the bulk edit tool. Visit hover.com/Android to get 10% off any and all Hover services. On to the business at hand. In a previous episode, we mentioned that for every HTC Android handset sold, Microsoft was getting a fairly sizable cut thanks to its library of patents. Apparently, Android infringes on some of these patents, and HTC was the first to pay the price. Now it's everyone else's turn. Specifically, Samsung is next up. Microsoft is going after Samsung for $15 per Android device it sells. A settlement is all but imminent, and as these things go, there will likely be a lot of back and forth before it's reached. Google, the owner of Android, has been quiet on the subject as they lack the patents to back up their partners in legal wranglings with Microsoft. With Google losing its bid to buy up all of Nortel's patents for a hefty and particularly nerdy sum, more on that in a moment, that doesn't look to be changing in the near future. In other words, Android's free license terms, where just about anyone can use the Android code to create a phone, a tablet, an e-reader, or just about any other device, are becoming a lot less free. Google may not charge licensing fees, but as is their wont, Microsoft sure doesn't mind. We've been waiting on word of the next Nexus. Now it seems some details are trickling out. The device, codenamed Nexus Prime, is apparently being made by Samsung. That could mean $15 per Nexus Prime will go straight into Microsoft's pocket. It'll be the first ice cream sandwich phone eschewing physical buttons in favor of the on-screen buttons that are part of Android 4.0. If BGR is to be believed, we're expecting a 720p Super AMOLED screen and an OMAP 4460 processor, which is a dual-core processor running up to 1.5 GHz. The summer release calendar for Android handsets looks pretty sweet. There are some compelling handsets on the horizon. If you can hold off, though, the fall looks even hotter. We've stated before that we're proponents of stock Android, and the Nexus Prime, as with the whole Nexus series, is as stock as it comes. As someone who bought in on the Nexus 1 and upgraded to the Nexus S on launch day, it's fair to say we'll have one of these in the studio for review just as soon as it launches. In an effort to build out its patent war chest, Google went up against Apple, Microsoft, RIM, Sony, and others in a bid to win 6,000 Nortel patents. This would have given Google and Android specifically some leg to stand on in patent disputes. So far, these disputes have seen a decidedly silent Google watching on the sidelines as more and more manufacturer partners start paying dividends to Microsoft. Google started the bidding process with a $900 million bid back in April. Then they grabbed attention with a bid of pi, or $3.14159 billion. The bidding war saw over 20 bids laid. Some other Google bids of note: $1,902,160,540, aka Bruns Constant, and $2,614,972,128, Meisel Mertens Constant. Google also bid the distance of the Earth from the Sun and several other at first blush mystifying numbers. After messing with its opponents' heads with uneven bids, Google finally dropped out of the running once the bidding breached $4 billion. That left a consortium of 6 rival bidders to walk away with the portfolio for $4.5 billion, way more than anyone expected. For our review of the day, we throw it over to Kate Abraham, who's turning lead into gold with Alchemy.
I'm a big fan of puzzle games, and one of my favourites in the Android market is Alchemy. Based on the ancient notion of transforming base elements into precious gold, this simple yet highly entertaining game will have you hooked in no time. The game starts with 4 basic elements: fire, water, earth, and air. The goal is to drag and drop various elements together to create new ones, achieving all the possible elements. For example, combining air and fire makes energy, adding water to earth makes swamp, and combining energy and swamp makes life. Now this may sound simple, but as your elements transform and evolve, your options become more bizarre. If needed, you can double tap on any empty space to add your 4 basic elements. You can also double tap on any element to duplicate it. As you discover new elements, you can add them to your menu for later combinations. Just click on the plus key to add them into your game. To date, there are 370 elements that can be created, and they're adding more all the time. The goal is to keep up with the ever-growing list.
Well, that's all the news that's fit to Google for this week. For full show notes, links, other great shows, or to subscribe to Android Weekly, visit Butterscotch.com. Until next week, I'm Andrew Moore-Crispin. you.